In the annals of human history, there exist creatures, both animal and man, that operate with a chilling detachment from the sanctity of life. These are the predators, the apex hunters, who for reasons often unfathomable, choose to extinguish the flame of existence in others. Today, we delve into some of the most shocking serial killer executions in history. We will bear witness to the methods, the moments, and the final breaths of those who walked among us, yet preyed upon us. The year is 1989. The state of Florida prepares for a spectacle that will forever be etched in its memory: the execution of Theodore Robert Bundy. Bundy, a charismatic law student, had ensnared the nation with his charm, all the while hiding a sinister secret. He was a prolific serial killer, responsible for the deaths of at least 30 young women. His crimes, marked by a depravity that chilled the very soul, had finally caught up with him. The method of execution chosen for Bundy was the electric chair, a macabre contraption that had long been a symbol of ultimate punishment. Strapped into the chair, his eyes betraying a flicker of fear for the first time, Bundy uttered his final words, a chilling mix of defiance and resignation. "Jim and Fred, I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends." With that, the executioner pulled the lever, sending a surge of electricity through Bundy's body. His reign of terror was over. The air crackled with a palpable tension as witnesses watched the macabre scene unfold. Some stared straight ahead, unable to look away from the gruesome spectacle. Others wept openly, overcome by the weight of the moment. Bundy's execution, a public display of retribution, marked the end of a dark chapter in American history. The electric chair, with its history steeped in controversy and debate, had claimed another life, its cold, unforgiving embrace extinguishing the life of one of America's most notorious killers. But Bundy's death did little to quell the debate over capital punishment. If anything, it ignited the flames of a moral and ethical debate that continues to rage to this day. Aileen Wuornos, a name synonymous with anger, desperation, and a chilling disregard for human life. Her story, one of abuse, abandonment, and ultimately murder, unfolded on the highways of Florida, where she preyed on unsuspecting men, leaving a trail of bodies in her wake. Unlike Bundy, whose charisma masked his true nature, Wuornos was a woman consumed by rage, her crimes fueled by a deep-seated hatred for a world that had shown her little kindness. Her trial, a media frenzy that captivated the nation, culminated in a death sentence, making her one of the few women in American history to face such a fate. As she sat in the sterile confines of death row, Wuornos transformed from a cold-blooded killer into a symbol of societal failure, her case igniting fierce debates about the death penalty, the criminal justice system, and the very nature of justice itself. On October 9, 2002, the day of her execution arrived, casting a somber pall over the Florida State Prison. Wuornos, her once fiery spirit seemingly extinguished, was a shadow of her former self. The lethal injection, a method touted as a more humane alternative to the electric chair, was prepared. As the drugs flowed through her veins, Wuornos's final words echoed through the execution chamber, a chilling testament to her troubled life. "Yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. June 6th, like the movie. Big mothership and all, I'll be back." Her execution, far from providing closure, only served to deepen the moral and ethical quandaries surrounding capital punishment. Was Wuornos a product of her environment, a victim of circumstance, or a remorseless killer who deserved her fate? The debate raged on, fueled by the haunting image of a woman broken by a life of hardship and violence. Beneath the surface of John Wayne Gacy's seemingly ordinary life as a contractor and amateur clown, lurked a horrifying secret. Gacy, known for his cheerful demeanor and community involvement, was living a double life, one that would shock the nation to its core. He was a predator, luring young men and boys to his home with promises of work or companionship, only to torture, murder, and bury them in the crawlspace beneath his house. The discovery of the bodies sent shockwaves through America. The sheer depravity of Gacy's crimes, coupled with his unassuming facade, made his case all the more chilling. His trial, a media circus that captivated the nation, exposed the dark underbelly of suburban America, a place where evil could lurk behind the most unassuming of masks. Found guilty and sentenced to death, Gacy spent 14 years on death row, his case becoming a lightning rod for debate about the death penalty. His lawyers argued that he was mentally ill, incapable of understanding the gravity of his crimes, while prosecutors painted him as a monster who deserved nothing less than death. On May 10, 1994, Gacy's time ran out. He was executed by lethal injection, his death marking the end of a reign of terror that had haunted the Chicago area for years. His final meal, a bizarre and unsettling request, consisted of fried chicken, French fries, a pound of strawberry shortcake, and a Diet Coke. It was a last act of defiance from a man who had shown no remorse for his crimes. The name Jeffrey Dahmer sends shivers down the spines of even the most hardened crime enthusiasts. His crimes, a grotesque tapestry of murder, cannibalism, and necrophilia, shocked a nation accustomed to tales of violence. Dahmer's apartment in Milwaukee, Wisconsin became a house of horrors, a place where his victims were drugged, tortured, and dismembered, their remains kept as gruesome trophies. Dahmer's descent into madness began in his youth, marked by social isolation and a fascination with death. As he grew older, his fantasies morphed into a horrifying reality, fueled by alcohol and a complete lack of empathy. He lured his victims, often young men on the fringes of society, to his apartment, where they became pawns in his twisted games. His reign of terror came to an end in 1991 when one of his intended victims managed to escape and alert the authorities. What they discovered in Dahmer's apartment was the stuff of nightmares. Body parts stored in the refrigerator, skulls kept as souvenirs, and photographs documenting his gruesome acts. The public was horrified, and Dahmer became a symbol of pure evil. During his trial, Dahmer's demeanor remained eerily calm, his voice flat as he recounted his crimes in chilling detail. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but the jury ultimately rejected his plea, finding him guilty and sentencing him to 15 consecutive life sentences. He was incarcerated at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin, where he spent his days in relative isolation. The Pacific Northwest, known for its lush forests and rugged beauty, became a hunting ground for Gary Ridgway, a man whose monstrous acts would forever stain the region's idyllic image. Ridgway, dubbed the Green River Killer, preyed on young women, often runaways or prostitutes, luring them into his truck before strangling them and dumping their bodies in wooded areas along the Green River. For over 2 decades, Ridgway eluded authorities, his crimes terrorizing the Seattle area and leaving a trail of grief and unanswered questions. His victims, many of whom were never identified, became haunting reminders of the killer's brutality and the vulnerability of those living on the margins of society. The investigation into the Green River killings became one of the longest and most complex in American history. Detectives worked tirelessly, chasing down leads and interviewing potential suspects, but Ridgway remained a phantom, his true identity hidden behind a mask of normalcy. He was a family man, a factory worker, and a seemingly devout Christian, all the while living a double life as a ruthless serial killer. In 2001, a break in the case came when DNA evidence linked Ridgway to several of the Green River victims. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Ridgway struck a deal with prosecutors, agreeing to confess to his crimes in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. His confession sent shockwaves through the nation as he admitted to killing at least 48 women, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history. As we've journeyed through these harrowing tales of violence and retribution, we're left grappling with unsettling questions about the nature of justice and the effectiveness of capital punishment. Do these executions, these calculated acts of state-sanctioned death, truly bring closure to the families of victims, or do they simply perpetuate a cycle of violence and vengeance? The debate surrounding the death penalty is complex and multifaceted, with no easy answers. It forces us to confront our own beliefs about morality, accountability, and the very meaning of justice. While some find solace in the belief that capital punishment deters future crimes and provides a sense of retribution, others argue that it is a barbaric practice that has no place in a civilized society. What are your thoughts on the death penalty? Share your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content.